Everyone in Grace Haven Church knew Amara. If the doors were open, Amara was there. Morning prayers, afternoon fellowship, night vigils, she never missed any of them. The tall, quiet church felt like her second home. She walked through its doors with calm confidence, greeting people with a gentle smile that made others feel seen. She belonged to almost every unit. The choir knew her voice. The ushers knew her discipline. The outreach team knew her kindness. Older women often whispered to each other, "Look at that girl, she truly fears God." And it was true. Amara took her faith seriously. Outside church, her life looked just as perfect. She worked at a respected firm in the city, earned a good salary, and lived comfortably. Her coworkers liked her, though they all noticed one thing: she was friendly, but distant. She laughed during meetings, helped when asked, but never stayed behind to chat. Once work hours ended, Amara disappeared into her own world. She owned a neat silver sedan that helped her move through the busy city with ease. Work, church, errands, everything ran on schedule. Yet behind the beauty, order, and devotion, something about Amara felt closed. She didn't keep close friends. She spoke to people, smiled with them, prayed beside them, but no one truly entered her private life. When church ended or office doors closed, relationships stopped there. No hangouts. No surprise visits. No late-night phone calls. Men noticed her. They admired her quiet confidence, her soft speech, her devotion to God. Several asked her out, some gently, others boldly. A few even pleaded. Amara always said the same thing: "I'm not ready." Her smile was polite but final. Amara lived alone in a cream-colored apartment not far from the church. It was warm and orderly, flowers on the balcony, books lined neatly on shelves, and the soft scent of candles floating in the air. She didn't truly live alone, though. She lived with Shadow. Shadow was her dog, a thick brown coat, sharp ears, and eyes filled with intense loyalty. He had been with her since her teenage years, back when she still lived with her parents. Her parents hadn't wanted her to bring him to the city. "He'll be too much responsibility," they warned. But Amara begged. She promised. She cried. Eventually, they agreed. Shadow became more than a pet. He became her companion. Her comfort. Her silent witness. He was the only one who knew about the quiet pain Amara never spoke of. Almost every evening, Amara walked Shadow through the calm streets of the neighborhood. Children waved at them. Neighbors smiled. "There goes the caring dog owner," people often said. Life felt safe. Predictable. Controlled. Until one evening, everything shifted. Amara was returning from a walk, lost in thought about dinner, when Shadow suddenly lunged forward and bumped into a man jogging past. The man steadied himself and laughed softly. "I keep seeing you around with your dog," he said warmly. Amara looked up, startled. "Oh, sorry," she said quickly. "His name is Shadow. He's usually calm." The man smiled. He was tall, fit, with a relaxed confidence that made people notice him without trying. "I'm Ethan Brooks," he said. "I just moved here. I jog every morning and evening." His voice was calm. Friendly. Too easy. They spoke briefly. Then Ethan asked gently, "Would you mind if I got your number?" Amara's smile stiffened. "I'm not ready to share that," she replied softly. Ethan nodded without offense. "That's okay. It was nice meeting you, Amara." He jogged away, still smiling. From that day on, they crossed paths often. Too often. Every morning. Every evening. Ethan waved when he saw her. Sometimes they exchanged greetings. Sometimes Shadow circled him, sniffing, watching, growling under his breath. And slowly, Against her own rules, Amara found herself waiting for those moments. She didn't understand why. But something inside her had begun to stir. Amara told herself it meant nothing. A greeting. A wave. A familiar face on a familiar street. Yet every evening, her steps slowed just a little when she knew Ethan Brooks might appear. And every morning, she caught herself listening for the steady rhythm of his jog before she even saw him. Shadow noticed too. Each time Ethan came near, the dog stiffened. His ears lifted. His body positioned itself between Amara and the man, as if guarding something invisible. At first, Amara laughed it off. He's just protective, she told herself. But protection slowly turned into tension. Days passed. Then one quiet evening, Amara wasn't watching where she stepped. Her foot struck a loose stone, and pain shot up her leg. She cried out, stumbling forward. Shadow whimpered and rushed to her side. From across the street, Ethan saw her fall. He ran toward her without hesitation. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, concern flooding his voice. He reached out to help her up. Shadow backed sharply, a deep, warning sound that echoed down the street. Ethan froze but didn't back away. "It's all right," he said calmly, more to the dog than to Amara. With careful movements, he helped Amara to her feet, supporting her weight as she limped slowly toward her apartment. At her gate, Ethan hesitated. "Can I get your number?" he asked gently. "Just so I can check on you later." This time, Amara didn't say no. Her fingers trembled as she typed her number into his phone. "Thank you," she said quietly. As Ethan walked away, Shadow barked louder than ever, fur raised, teeth showing. Amara knelt beside him, stroking his head. "It's okay," she whispered, though her heart wasn't convinced. The next morning, Ethan came by to check on her. He knocked on the door. Shadow exploded into furious barking, slamming himself against the glass as if sensing danger. Ethan raised his hands, startled. "Wow, he really doesn't like me." Amara hurried forward, forcing a laugh. "Shadow, stop," she whispered. But Shadow didn't listen. So Amara stepped outside, closing the door behind her. They talked. And talked. Longer than Amara had talked with anyone in years. She told him about her job. He told her about his move to the city. He listened, truly listened. Something inside her shifted. That was how it began. Slowly. Carefully. Weeks passed. Her ankle healed, and Ethan started joining her at church. At first, it was just to spend time with her. But soon, he became genuinely interested. He watched how she lifted her hands during worship, how she closed her eyes when she prayed. Amara felt seen, without being invaded. They took evening walks. Shared meals. Laughed quietly under streetlights. Conversations stretched longer each day. Her walls, built over years, began to crack. Yet Shadow never changed. Every time Ethan came close, the dog barked, growled, watched. Sometimes Amara felt a chill crawl down her spine. But she pushed it away. Dogs bark for many reasons, she told herself. One evening, Ethan invited her out to dinner. The restaurant glowed with soft lights, music floating gently in the air. Amara wore a simple dress, her beauty effortless. Ethan couldn't stop staring. Later, as they walked beneath glowing street lamps, he stopped suddenly. "Amara," he said, voice low and sincere. "Will you be my girlfriend?" Her heart pounded. "I like you," she replied softly. "But if we do this, we wait. Until marriage." Ethan smiled. "I respect that." From that day on, love bloomed. But every night, every single night, when Ethan walked her home, Shadow went wild. Barking. Scratching. Whining. as if screaming a warning no one wanted to hear. And deep inside Amara's heart, guilt began to grow. Because she knew something Ethan didn't. And she feared the day the truth would finally come out. Love changed Amara faster than she expected. Every message from Ethan made her smile. Every small gift, a necklace, a handwritten note, a simple flower, felt like something precious. She wasn't used to being cherished like that. For the first time in her life, she felt chosen. Yet every sweet moment carried a shadow. Each night when Ethan walked her home, he kissed her forehead gently and whispered, "Good night, Amara." And each night, the moment the door closed behind her, Shadow lost control. He backed until his voice cracked. He scratched the floor, paced the living room, eyes burning with panic and rage. The calm, loyal dog she knew disappeared, replaced by something raw and frightening. Ethan noticed. "Why does he act like this every time?" he asked once. Amara answered too quickly. "He's just nervous. He'll get used to you." But even she didn't believe that anymore. Some nights, after Ethan left, Amara pressed her back against the door and slid to the floor, heart racing. What am I hiding? Why can't I tell him? She loved Ethan. She trusted him. But the truth inside her chest felt too heavy to lift, too shameful to expose. Late at night, she stared at Ethan's photo on her phone, tears blurring the screen. "He doesn't deserve this," she whispered. "He doesn't deserve someone like me." Then one evening, everything broke. Ethan decided to surprise her. He wanted to do something unforgettable, something that would show her how deeply he cared. He walked into a high-end boutique and picked out beautiful clothes and a bouquet of deep red flowers. "She'll love this," he told himself. Without calling, he drove straight to Amara's apartment. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. That was strange. Her car was parked inside the compound. A knot tightened in his chest. "Amara," he called softly. No barking. No movement. That alone made his heart race. He tried the door. It opened. "Why would she leave it unlocked?" he whispered. The apartment was silent, too silent. "Amara," he called again, fear creeping into his voice. Then he heard it. A muffled sound upstairs. A soft thud. Uneven breathing. And the low, rumbling growl of a dog. His pulse thundered as he climbed the stairs. When he reached the bedroom door, the sounds were unmistakable. He pushed it open. What he saw froze his blood. Amara lay on the bed, trembling violently. Shadow was pressed tightly against her, licking her hands, whining, as if trying to calm her. She clung to him desperately, whispering words Ethan couldn't hear. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were wild with fear. It looked wrong. Confusing. Intimate in a way Ethan couldn't understand. Before he could speak, Shadow turned and saw him. The dog roared. Then lunged. "Shadow, no!" Amara screamed. Too late. The dog slammed into Ethan, claws tearing into his chest and shoulder. Fabric ripped. Pain exploded everywhere. Ethan shouted, struggling to push the animal off. Everything blurred. The last thing he heard was Amara crying. Then darkness swallowed him. Ethan woke up to pain. Sharp, burning pain wrapped in bandages. The smell of disinfectant filled the room. Machines beeped softly beside him. When he turned his head, he saw Amara sitting by his hospital bed. Her eyes were swollen. Red. Empty from crying. "Amara," he whispered. She flinched. "How could you let this happen?" he asked quietly, not shouting, not angry, just broken. "I trusted you. I thought you were honest with me." Tears slid down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never meant to hurt you." A doctor entered, checked Ethan's injuries, and gave strict instructions: rest, no stress, no sudden movement. Then he left them alone. The silence that followed was heavy. On the drive to Ethan's house after his discharge, neither of them spoke. Words felt too fragile to touch. At his gate, Ethan stepped out slowly, wincing. Amara stood frozen by her car, heart pounding. This is goodbye, she thought. But Ethan stopped. Amara, he said softly. Come inside. We need to talk. Her legs shook as she followed him. Inside the living room, Ethan sat across from her. For how long has this been happening? He asked gently. Amara tried to speak. The words refused to come. Ethan moved closer and placed a careful hand on her shoulder. You need help, he said. And I'm not here to judge you. I love you. That broke her. Everything she had locked away for years spilled out. She told him about growing up alone. About the quiet house. About begging for siblings. About how her parents were always busy. Then she told him about Shadow. How the dog became her comfort. Her protection. Her entire emotional world. How the attachment grew too deep. Too unhealthy. Too consuming. As she spoke, her voice shook with shame. When she finished, she couldn't lift her head. Ethan sat in silence, stunned. Finally, he took her hands. You were lonely, he said gently. And you held on to the only thing that stayed. She sobbed. But this can't continue, he added softly. Shadow can't stay with you. Her chest tightened. I know, she whispered. They decided together. Shadow would be taken to a rehabilitation home, one that handled aggressive and emotionally dependent dogs. The night before the pickup, Amara locked Shadow in a separate room. He backed and scratched at the door until her heart felt like it would split in two. I'm sorry, she cried against the door. I'm so sorry. When the handlers arrived the next day, Shadow sensed something was wrong. He broke free. Ran. Vanished. All that remained were paw prints fading into the street. Amara collapsed into Ethan's arms. And somewhere deep inside her, healing and fear began at the same time. Shadow never returned. But he never truly left either. After he ran away, Amara began therapy. Week after week, she sat in a quiet room and spoke about her childhood, her loneliness, and the fear of being abandoned. The therapist helped her understand how pain can twist love into something dangerous when it grows without balance. Medical checks followed. Evaluations. Long conversations. Through it all, Ethan stayed. He drove her to appointments. Held her hand when tears came. Reminded her that healing wasn't weakness, it was courage. Slowly, Amara began to change. But strange signs remained. Some mornings, she found fresh paw prints outside her apartment. Sometimes, scratches appeared on her car door. Once, she heard faint barking in the distance late at night. He's still here, Amara whispered one evening, her voice shaking. Ethan's jaw tightened. This isn't healthy, he said. You need a clean break. You need peace. They moved her across town. The new apartment was bright and quiet. The first night there, Amara slept deeply, no barking, no shadows, no fear. I'm free, she whispered. Time passed. Love grew stronger. Ethan proposed beneath a sky full of stars, and Amara said yes with tears of joy. Wedding plans moved fast. Her parents celebrated. The church prepared. The wedding day arrived. The church glowed with soft golden light. Guests filled the pews. Music hummed gently through the air. Ethan stood at the altar, heart pounding. Then Amara walked in, radiant, peaceful, healed. Everything was perfect. Until the barking started. Soft at first. Then louder. Then furious, the doors burst open. Shadow charged down the aisle. A security guard reacted instantly. A gunshot echoed. Silence fell. Shadow collapsed. Amara screamed. Ethan held her tightly. "It's over," he whispered. "You're safe." And as tears fell and hearts pounded, Amara understood. Some bonds must be broken for life to truly begin.